reading your questions off if that's how we want to do it. And you can always try to unmute yourself too and ask questions as we go into the questioning part of our session today. Megan Brown is there. She's co-producing this morning with me, and I am here and hosting today's session. So, and again, your board members, Claire Anderson isn't with us today, but she'll be here next time. But it's myself, Megan, and Claire. We've worked together, gosh, how long has it been now, Megan? We've known each other for about 3 or 4 years, right?
Well, a couple years, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Seems longer, though.
It does.
Been through a lot.
Yeah, we have. And so, and we met and we all really were passionate about change management, and that's why we started doing what we're doing. So again, if you want to make a comment, have a question, especially when we get to the end of the session, when we have our, our sharing time, just unmute your phone, unmute your computer, and that's how you can jump into the conversation. And we really want you to jump into the conversation. That's what we're all here to do, is to share our ideas and our thoughts. And that's how you unmute yourself at the bottom on your computer screen. And again, so the purpose and direction of this community of practice, we're not just one methodology. We're very agnostic. We want to have multiple ideas of different methodologies and things that work. We want to learn from each other, build on our knowledge so that we can all improve. And we want to inspire and lead change throughout the world. And again, the bottom of that, the whole foundation of that, is ensuring people who are impacted by change are successful with that change. Oh, and I put in a funny little joke today too. So I liked this one, right? What if, and I know this sounds kooky, we communicated with the employees. Sometimes it's what it feels like. It feels like, all these changes are happening in the organization and nobody knows anything. So communication is part of change management, and it's important to make sure that we focus on that. And it helps to engage the employees. And I think engagement is really what change management's all about. So your voice, again, is very, very important. If you're interested in presenting, please let us know. We'll have an announcement at the end about that, but we'd really like to get a wide variety of presenters presenting every other month so that we can get a lot of different, diverse knowledge. And share with us, share resources, tools, things like that. After the event, each webinar, we send out a survey to get feedback on the actual webinar, to get your ideas so that we can start incorporating those things into our future webinar. And be sure to ask questions and be involved in the conversation. So today, I'm welcoming you now, and Jean Wright. Jean, you can wave and say hi. So Jean Wright is going to be our presenter today, and she's from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And her presentation is Enhancing Change Capability, How One Federal Agency Advanced Its Change Management Maturity. So at this point in time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Jean can share hers.
All right. Thank you, Megan, Michelle, and Sydney, for having me out here today. I'm going to go ahead and start switch. I says I can't. While the other part you
now you should be able to.
Now I should be able to share. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Michelle, can you see my
slide?
And
by the way, everyone, we are recording this so that we can post it onto our website. I just want to make sure everybody knew that.
Great. Michelle, can you see my slides?
I cannot yet.
Okay. Let me just go back in here.
Sometimes it's funky. You have to select the right screen.
Yeah, I'll get it. Here's where we go.
There we go.
Just showing how change can be a little difficult at times, huh?
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us here today. So again, my name is Jean Wright, and I am with the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. What I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to share, we call ourselves OCC for short, that's our acronym. I'm going to share OCC's approach to enterprise change management, and specifically share with you 3 critical factors to success and a dozen lessons learned. So first off, I'm going to start out with a little bit of what is OCC. So the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency is an agency under the Department of Treasury. We're a federal agency, and we regulate the national banks and federal savings associations. So our job is to help keep your money safe and make sure that you have adequate and fair access to banking services. We have approximately 3,600 employees in our organization, and 2/3 of them are bank examiners. So that's our mission, that's our core skills that we have here. Our regulations come from the federal government. So Congress passes laws and regulations, and that's what we enact. My role here at the OCC is I'm an internal organizational consultant. That is an internal organizational development practitioner here. And as part of my job, I help to help leaders with change. We have on our organizational development team, we have 5 practitioners. 4 are OD practitioners and 1 is an IO psychologist. So we work as a team to provide change management services throughout the organization. But we're not the only practitioners in our organization. We actually have 70 change management practitioners. They are embedded within our business units, and this is not their only job. They're there to help facilitate change within their business unit. So we work closely with them and mentor them and coach them in their practices as well. So if I have to give you what's the big headline that we have to share, it's really, ta-da, the Office of the Comptroller in the currency has advanced like 1.25 maturity model levels within the past 2 years. That's our big headline. We started out, this is actually ProSize change management maturity model that you're seeing here. And you can see we started out in August of 2017, right there at the lower level of level 2, meaning that we were using primarily communication to broadcast changes. And we were doing some ad hoc things as far as preparing and equipment employees and managers for change, but we really didn't have a solid approach, and we definitely weren't consistent. So we were a bit sporadic, can I say, in our change management tactics and strategy. And then over the past 2 years, we've now advanced. In September of 2019, we just received our results back from our change management maturity audit, and we're now at a 3.3. So that's just over 1 level increase. And what is the hallmark of this level really is that we have best practices out there, they're evident, though we're probably not as consistent as we need to be. That's more of a level 4. So I think that kind of sums up where we're at right now. So I don't know how familiar you are with enterprise change management and just that terminology. So before I get into my material, I just want to kind of level set and point you to what we're going to talk about today. We all use change management tools and processes to help our organizations through changes, though at a higher level, at the enterprise level, we as an organization need to have the capability to be able to respond to change across the organization. So I know ProSci uses this analogy, so I'm just going to cheat and use their analogy. Think of change management as building a house in a subdivision, and think of enterprise change management is creating the subdivision, getting the sidewalks, the roads, the water to your house, the cable, those kind of utility things to your house. So that's what enterprise change management is all about. It helps make the job of individual change projects a little easier. So I'm going to start off with sharing 3 critical success factors that helped OCC advance their enterprise change management approach. And we'll start off first with what we did was we linked to what's important, and I'll explain how we did that. And then we also created alignment all through our organization. And then we treated enterprise change management as a project and a change management effort. So let me start out with the first one here. We linked to what's important. Now, when we first started talking about change management, and I'm sure you all know there's a lot of jargon that goes along with it. But in order for us to really be able to connect to executives, we needed to be able to talk in terms that they care about. So the number one thing that we had to do was move away from the theory and pick up what the organization is talking about and tap into that information. And really kind of leads me into my second point under this, what's important, is we connected to executive conversations. Our executives were talking about their most recent, in 2017, our executives were talking about the 2016 engagement survey results. And we knew from those results and follow-on conversations that employees were really concerned about the number of changes that were happening and the way the changes were being executed. So that was at top of mind. The executives were also talking about how they wanted to enhance their decision-making and execution of decisions. So when I talked about change management with them and built that business case for change management, I kind of stepped back away from the theory a little bit and tapped into, so we could use change management really to address these things that we're seeing in our engagement survey and to help you, executives, execute your decisions that you're currently making. We also tied change management into strategic goals. So as I looked through strategic goals, I could see places where change management could benefit those goals and further those goals, and I built that into the case and the conversation. Later on, our organization turned to a real focus on efficiency and effectiveness, and change management also supported that focus as well. All while we're having these conversations about change management, it's important to understand what the boundaries are for your organization. We were in a situation where we were tight on resources. We were still, under heavy pressure due to recession. So there was really no appetite to have a program that adds additional work and responsibilities on folks. Instead, we wanted to create more of a lens that people use to look at projects. Let's put on our change management lens. We also didn't want to draw resources away from the agency's mission. We wanted to make sure that our main focus was on keeping our banks safe and sound while we execute changes as well. So these were some real key important things that were going on in our organization as we began to roll out our enterprise change management thoughts and build our case and to really get buy-in for making this a priority. During all this time, and this is really over a period of a year, these conversations are going on to really build them out. We started seeing opportunities at all levels of the organization to embed enterprise change management into current organizational processes. So at the highest level, at the organization level, we tied it into strategic goals. At the executive leadership level, such as individuals who are leading the organization, we tied it into the executive committee's employee engagement action plan so that they had specific actions for them to do. And what I mean by that is we had a conversation around, being active and visible for changes as changes were rolled out, about how to build sponsor coalitions. So they became more familiar with those terms and how to do that, and then around communication with employees. And then last but not least, at the lowest level of the organization, for each individual, change management looks like a competency that they need to develop. So we were hitting it from all angles, and we built it into these organizational processes. All of these things help to keep change management alive in conversations and out there and in front of people, and made it important to our executives and our leadership team. So linking to what's important was our first critical factor here for success. Second was getting alignment. Some of you all might call that buy-in. And we needed it from all levels of the organization. So when I say 360, I'm talking all around. We need it at the highest levels of the organization, horizontally, all the way down. So the first thing that we did to create 360 alignment was find a way in. I had to think about how we could get this in front of executives. It wasn't as simple as you just schedule a meeting with the leaders of the organization to talk about change management. I found we have a structure where we have an executive committee and then there's subcommittees. And one of our subcommittees is a human capital subcommittee. So that seemed like the best approach, a best doorway into the executive conversation. So I reached out to that chairperson of that subcommittee and had a few conversations, and he was really excited about what change management can do for the organization, do for people, and he saw that tie. He helped me build that tie into what's important to the executives. So he's the one that came up with the idea that we should tie change management to decision making and execution, and to engagement, and to strategic goals. So that was very key. And he invited me then to the Human Capital Subcommittee meeting, where I had a chance to really just start pitching the idea and the business case for change management. And that's where we began. That was the foot in the door. The Human Capital Subcommittee was on board with the idea of moving forward and enhancing our change management capability. So they authorized and sponsored what we call an alignment meeting. This is actually an idea that came from ProSci in my conversations with them. And what this meeting was an opportunity now to get horizontal alignment or horizontal buy-in. And at the alignment meeting, we gathered together the people that we thought we needed the most to participate and partner with organizational development to make change management happen and to enhance our change capability. So people that we invited are like our continuing education, our training folks, our communication staff. We invited our Lean Six Sigma folks and our Office of Strategic Management. So those are just a few of the types of people that we invited to this meeting. And this meeting, it started out, ProSci facilitated for us, and it started out where we all took the change management maturity audit, which is the results I showed you at the very beginning. And that helped us to determine where we were at on the maturity model. And it also helped us figure out where we wanted to be. So we then had a goal of what we were working for. And that's very important in the communication and the business case for this as you went forward. During the meeting, we got together as a group, and I want to say there was probably maybe 15 of us there, 15 or 16 people representing different parts of the organization. And we looked at what was happening in our organization as far as change, how we were changing, what we needed to do in order to be more change effective and efficient, and we came together. So it started out, you know, maybe people a little angry and upset about so much change and what had happened, to an actual movement where we decided there's something we could do about this. We could better this organization through enterprise change management by improving our capability, improving our skill sets around change management. And that was I felt like a real key turning point. We now had a critical mass of people ready to move forward. And out of this group, a subset of this group became our enterprise change management core team, a team that meets periodically throughout the year to discuss progress, to discuss ideas on how we can move forward. They're just key partners within the organization. So this was a real valuable meeting. And as I look back on everything we've done, I put this at the top of one of the really best practices that we experienced. So we had agreement at the top. We had some agreement here in the horizontal agreement. So now we needed to just really follow up on this and solidify it. So taking the results of the alignment meeting, I was invited then into the executive committee meeting where we talked and solidified, and they really made a very deliberate and purposeful decision to take on enterprise change management and make this a core competency within our organization. It also requires a lot of legwork at this point. I spent probably 6 months scheduling meetings across the organization with anybody who would talk to me, leadership teams, groups, individuals, asking them who's the next person I should talk to. Just a lot of meetings to help people understand what change management is, how it can be of use to us as an organization, and what the real ask was here, what we were going to be asking of people. And then on an ongoing basis, we still meet regularly. The enterprise change management is part of, it meets 3 times a year with the executives through a strategy meeting that their monthly strategy meetings, but I was just on their calendar just this week to update them on our most recent results that I shared with you, and also talk about goals for FY20. And we also are still tied into the engagement action planning process. So that's how we keep aligned with everyone. In organizations, that's important for every effort, and it was definitely a very positive experience for us and helped us move forward. So my third critical factor for success here that I want to share with you is that we manage the project side and the people side of enterprise change management. So while enterprise change management is run like a project, though we don't like to call it a project, it also has a change management side to us. So from the project angle, we really broke down what we want to do into 3 phases. There was a part where we needed to just familiarize people and make them aware of change management and the competency that we're trying to develop here. We needed to test it out on a few projects and hone our skills and become more practiced and get some good PR out there. And then lastly, we need to incorporate it into existing organizational processes. So there's a project plan behind all of this that's running the show. And this is just a little piece of what the project plan was trying to achieve. So on the left, you'll see there is a timeline from FY18 when we started, and it's ongoing. And on the right-hand side, these are the very high-level project goals. And then in the middle are ProSci's 7 contributors to change management success. So ProSci doesn't lay this out this way. I laid this out for you this way today because starting at the bottom, these were the things that we focused on first. You know, getting our sponsorship around enterprise change management nailed down, getting that sponsor coalition so that we had leaders on board, making sure we had resources, deciding on an approach. And we selected ProSci because it matched the way our organization works. That's the reason why we went with that particular approach. It fit our organization very well. Instead of trying to change an organization to fit a methodology, we selected one that fit our organization. That's probably another key success factor there. But we start at the bottom by helping our leadership be successful sponsors. And that work, along with the work of creating the foundation with the resources and selecting the approach, that really took the first year. This is a real slow roll. We were very slow and deliberate. The last thing we wanted to do was to come out fast in the gate and die under our own weight or make a lot of missteps or not do change management for change management. And then in our second year, we focused more on, expanding the types and the complexity of projects that we were applying change management to, getting managers more acclimated and on board with change management, and just really skill building and integrating change management into key processes. So that's how we built it. That's pretty much the order it felt, and it was organic in the way it went. Now, as I mentioned here, you also need to take care of the people side of enterprise change management. It's not just going to happen. You need to do change management for change management. So this is what you're seeing here are our basically four levels of hierarchy in the OCC. The executive committee, and then they have deputies. That's what the DCs are, deputies. And then we have managers, first line employees, and then we have employees. And we started with a top-down rollout. So we wanted to make sure that our executive staff and our managers were aware of what change management was. They were on board, they were committed to it, then work through their knowledge and ability so that they could become effective sponsors and leaders of change. And then comes the reinforcement. So that's the ADCAR model you see in the arrows that are going to the right. And we started here right around May of 2018. This circle is about where we were at. So we've been working on it for about 6 months, and we felt like we had adequate awareness and buy-in at the top and in some of the at the executive level. I'm sorry, not backwards. By the end of 2018, we had expanded our bullseye here and what we were trying to, the audiences that we were trying to reach. Our executives were much more versed in change management and better sponsors. We were bringing in the next layer of executives, and managers are starting to learn about their role, and employees were probably just starting to get wind of what we were trying to do. And then currently, here's where we're at in our change management for change management. We've now rolled out some courses to employees, but they're still learning along with us, and we have a lot of reinforcement to do. So that's pretty much where how we moved along how we got people to move along with us throughout the 2 years. So along the way, we also need to do we need to assess our progress. And we use 2 assessments to assess progress. One is the change management maturity model that I shared with you all already. We conduct that assessment every August. And the reason why I conduct it in August is because it fits in well with our fiscal year planning cycle. So I can take the results from that assessment and create goals for the coming year and kind of roll out, this is what we've done and here's where we're going, all in one nice piece of communication. When we first began, our first change management maturity audit the audience for that was the folks who attended the alignment meeting, and then sampling, a cross-section of management that I pulled in. So we used that same group for the first 2 years, the 2017 and 2018 audit. In 2019, we expanded our group who provided input to the audit to all of management. We offered everyone in management the opportunity to contribute to this audit. In addition, the change management practitioners that we have in our organization, about 70 of them. So we take this input from all levels. This year, we also divided it out by demographic, so I could get a look at, so how did senior leadership view change management, how did middle management, and how do employees view change management and our capabilities. So, and that provided some very good insights. I also took a slice of each business unit. So how was each business unit looking at our enterprise change management progress as well? And that provided very helpful insight to us for the coming year. So that's the one assessment that we use. The second assessment that I conduct in March, and that's a mid-year calibration, and that is only issued to, it's a survey that's only issued to our change management practitioners. So there's 70-some people who are out throughout the organization who are hopefully involved in supporting changes, but also see missed opportunities. So for that particular survey, I use ProSci has 12 factors. I made that into a survey, and I added on some data questions to collect data about current change projects, what type of tactics were being used, and activities that were being used, that were successful, and what were the missed opportunities. So that provides some very concrete data to all of our change management practitioners and our leadership about what we're doing in change management and opportunities that we've missed. So those are really the three critical lessons learned that I wanted to share with you that I think have advanced ECM at the OCC. So now I want to talk to you about some lessons learned here. There's a dozen of them I have here. And they're not all bad, so I can't call them the dirty dozen. They're just a dozen lessons learned here. First off, I've already communicated this to you, pay attention to change management for change management. We at one point tried to implement a change management methodology here in the organization simply by providing training on it. And as you know, that doesn't always make things stick. So you need to also provide the change management behind it as well. My second lesson is, before starting up, uncover how changes are perceived and handled in the upper management and middle management of the hierarchy. So while I did my research around with the executives in the organization, I wish I had taken more time to understand how middle management perceives changes and what their needs are, and got them on board maybe a little bit earlier by reaching out and having these conversations with them. So I have to say, if that was I had to do over, I would definitely do that. Lesson 3, evaluate project management competencies. So if you're not familiar with the ProSci methodology, this is the project change triangle. And this graphic represents 3 elements that are critical to successful change: leadership, change management, project management, in order to get to project objectives, finish on time and in budget, and realize return on investment. So I paid a lot of attention to leadership and change management. And if we all know, if we're sitting on a stool that has 3 legs and one leg is weak, you're not going to achieve the results that you think that you're going to get. So if I had to look back at the very beginning, probably doing an evaluation on all 3 of these, not just 2, would have been very helpful. So we could figure out how to shore up project management as well. Lesson 4, provide coaching. There's just never enough coaching. And the change management practitioner is not the only one that needs to be doing the coaching. We need leaders at the executive level coaching their middle managers coaching, first line, front line supervisors coaching employees. We need employees coaching each other. So we need that to happen amongst peers at all levels. As change management practitioners, we've got to be prepared to coach everyone at all levels. So coaching is something to emphasize. I think in change, what I see a lot is maybe more, finger pointing. Instead, just take those opportunities and change them around to coaching. Lesson 5, recruit people who are on the inside where changes bubble up. So this was another lesson learned that was real valuable. When we first began recruiting change management practitioners that are embedded within our business units, we just did, hey, who's interested in change management and wants to learn more? And we got some folks and we trained them up. And then as we started moving, getting more mature in our change management practices, we really what we knew we needed then was people who are in the places, in the organizations, in critical positions, who see changes as they are initiated, or in a place where they can ask questions about, whether or not change management is being utilized and what these tactics are. It can help maybe even provide guidance and consulting and assistance with that. So as we got more, in subsequent classes for change management practitioners, we got more strategic. I engaged the executives and asked them to really focus on who were the people that are most appropriate for these positions, and in a place where change is initiated, or they at least are in a place where they can influence these changes. And we reached out to current change management practitioners, and we got recommendations on people who they thought should be in these classes. And part of our cadre, we call this group of change management practitioners ChangeNet, and we meet quarterly to talk about, to help learn together around change. So we reached in and we found out who people recommend that they're in the right position here. And the last class of change management practitioners was much more geared to these strategic positions. So that was not just anyone can be a change management practitioner. Lesson 6, do the legwork for senior leaders. So I don't need to tell you, senior leaders are busy. So as practitioners, we're going to find ourselves where we have to craft the talking points. We need to find, what venues that we need our leaders, our sponsors to be in to communicate change. We need to help them navigate on how they can be effective sponsors. So doing the legwork is important. And it goes along with the coaching piece as well. And I found that our leaders here are very receptive to assistance and help along the way. Lesson 7, conform to each line of business's culture and work. For our organization, having just one umbrella approach to how each line of business should incorporate change management into their daily processes was just not possible. So we needed to get into each line of business and understand how they operate and how they could leverage change management within their business unit. What were their critical processes? How we can incorporate change management into that processes? How their decisions are made? What questions need to be asked where? And that was actually much more conducive to the way our organization operates than trying to have some type of approach that we one size fits all that we asked every line of business to do. Lesson 8, this was a tough lesson to learn. When you first start practicing change management in your organization, you might not want to pick a huge organizational reorg that's controversial to be your first demo project. Pick something small and manageable. We learned a lot with that first effort. People were not well versed in change management. They didn't understand what we were trying to accomplish. So it felt much like this elephant you see in the background, like we were trying to eat it all in one big bite. We just went through another reorg recently, and our change management approach was much better. People knew what we were talking about. It was easier to create plans and tactics and approaches. So big lesson learned there. Lesson 9. Oh, I drink my own KoolAid. I really did. So when you're in the midst of the enthusiasm for your change management effort, you might think that everything's just going along great and you're enjoying your own KoolAid because you've got your fan club around you. You need to reach out into the darkness, out to areas that you don't normally have access to, and find out how people are perceiving change. And that's where you're going to find out what you need to do next. It's a kind of a scary reach because you're probably going to get your hand smacked a little bit when you get out there, and you're going to hear some things that you're like, wow, I didn't realize that. I thought we were doing great. So just be careful around surrounding yourself with people who are all enthusiastic for what's going on and are in the know, because there's others out there who will help you get a reality check. Lesson 10, sense when to make change management efforts visible. Like I said, we've done a slow, gentle rollout. And I like to say we went slow to go fast. And so we didn't come out the gate with some big hooray announcement about we're doing change management now. Because you have to remember, we have an organization of examiners. Their job is to look for things that aren't going right. We would have set ourselves up probably for definitely some hard times and some resistance. So instead, we've talked about change management in small ways, and we've built up to the point where we can use the words a little more freely. In fact, I'm gonna, in a couple slides here, I'm gonna say we're actually trying not to use the words change management as much anymore. But just be very sensitive to when is the right time to be talking about change management and how you're going to roll that out. Here's another big good lesson. Orient your labor union. If you have a bargaining unit within your organization, it's important to get them on board and figure out how you're going to work with them. But before you even work with your labor union, you need to work with your labor and employee relations folks. And I used to work in labor and employee relations. And so I know the perspective. I know that it has a very legal perspective. And it's not easy. You just can't freely talk about things in that environment. So you have to work with your labor and employee relations folks to figure out how you can go about incorporating change management tactics into a labor environment, a bargaining unit environment. What will work for them? What won't work for them? And then meet with your leadership of the labor union to figure out, to help them understand what change management is. In fact, I just saw the other day that I'm asked to come into one of their meetings. They have some questions about change management. So that's really important, to maintain a dialogue with them, help them to see what change management is and what it isn't, and make them a part of changes as much as possible. And then last but not least, point out how you're preparing people for change instead of just saying, hey, we're doing change management. I feel like the words change management, we've been working on this now for 2 years, are starting to get watered down. So we're going to just to the basic language of prepare and equip people. That's where we're reminding people what change management is. It's preparing and equipping people. We recently had a change to our telework policy. So in our communications, we said, you know, in October, we are preparing and equipping managers. In November, we're preparing and equipping employees, and the policy is effective December 9th. We aren't saying that we're doing change management. We're using those other words. So those are my 12 lessons that I have for you, and I've shared 3 critical success factors for us. And I would be interested in hearing your questions for me, or share about your enterprise change management.
Thank you so much, Jean. That was really, really wonderful. I took like 4 pages of notes, so that was good.
Yeah, same. And I love how you turned the term change management into something that's more actionable by saying preparing and equipping and making it a verb. That for me is a huge light bulb, because sometimes it is really hard for people to understand what change management is and why it's important. But when you put it in those terms, it just seems so obvious. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And we have one question from the chat panel. How did you address culture?
So I assume the culture of our organization. Yeah, so first off, our culture of our organization, remember I said we're examiners. So our job is to find problems and things that are inconsistent. So, and we're also pretty risk adverse. And with change comes risk. So think of those as key pieces of the culture, which really needs to be addressed in every change. But as far as enterprise change management, it actually made it a little easier, because you could talk about change as risk. And people understand risk. So that was one of the culture pieces that we knew. our culture, I failed to mention that our employees are all over the United States.
How
And
many?
they tend,
How many
sorry?
people do you have in your organization?
3,600.
Okay.
And so they're all across the United States. We have some district offices, and then our staff go into banks and work in teams. And those teams change out all the time. So it's our culture is not only just a culture in an organization. We have like 5 different cultures based upon what district you work in. So each of those has its own, little flavor because they're parts of the organization.
Right.
And it's very difficult to reach out into a dispersed culture like that and to make impact. And probably, if I have to say, do we have a change management culture yet? Probably not. So that's something we still are working on.
Okay.
Nice, thank you for that. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and I can read them aloud. Or if you want to unmute your mic, you're more than welcome to ask the question that way too.
So I have a question too, real quick, while we're waiting on others to unmute or to type in questions. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on. Do you feel like when you assessed the project management maturity, that there was a direct correlation to achieving the maturity level you want to achieve in change management with that? Can you talk more about that?
You mean like the correlation between project management and change management?
Yeah, and like the maturity levels of both, and how, like, I know, like in my organization, I feel like I have a higher level of maturity in change management than I do in project management. And so therefore I feel like I can't get any higher right now in change management because the project management is pulling me back.
Michelle, yeah, we feel the same. We feel
Okay.
similar. So, and that's why I said you need to assess that. We didn't really do that. So we got in and we started applying to change management, trying to apply change management. We realized, oh, it's really hard to do change management without a solid project management to hang your hat on. So that's where we stumbled actually across this, that we needed to do some work in project management competency development. It wasn't intentional. So if I had to do it all over again, I would be more intentional about assessing that.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could have done, build change management and project management competency along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible, but that's kind of what I think.
Yeah. And I find, we've been doing change management in my organization at CDOT for, gosh, 8 years, 7, 8 years. And right now we are now diving in to really starting to build up the project management side. And so, yeah. I mean, it took that long, I think, for people to have the desire or to value that other side, right? So now they have the desire. And so now I'm so excited that we're going to be able to start growing them at the same time. So.
Oh, good for you. I just, project management is like change management. You have to kind of decide to how much do you need, how much project, not everything needs Microsoft project on it, so I think there's going to be a degree of project management that we need to learn how to apply. Yeah. Just like change management, you don't throw the whole thing, everything at every project. You have to kind of give the appropriate amounts of change management based on the complexity and the risk level of the project. Yeah, scaling the approach is so. For sure. So the same thing needs to happen with project management. And I think we actually have some lessons here that we could take what we've done with enterprise change management and use them to, apply to develop our project management as well. Some very similar things. Because I think there needs to be some agreement to come to as what is project management for our organization. We had to come to agreement as what is change management for our organization. Right. So same thing. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that found that. Yeah.
Sorry, we have another question in the chat panel coming from Tony. The question is, to get ProSci in for facilitating and conducting the audit implies an initial level of executive buy-in. If that's accurate, could you speak to how that initial traction was created within your organization?
Yeah, so I remember I said, so we have an executive committee and then we have the subcommittees. I tapped into one of those subcommittees, the human capital subcommittee, because after all, change management is the people side of change. You know, so I tapped into that group and that chairperson, and they became our sponsor. So I worked with that subgroup of our executives, and that's where I got the initial buy-in to conduct the alignment meeting. And so the getting approval for the alignment meeting was not the wholehearted, you know, hey, we're in on this yet. It was, can we get these group together to do an assessment and to see what the appetite is and see what we possibly could do. And so that helped to craft a proposal, you know, that I could take then to the executives to get their buy-in to move further as an organization. So yeah, the alignment meeting is really, really important. Yeah, I had to get commitment to get the funding and everything, and I did that at a sub-level.
Awesome, thank you for that. We don't have any other, oh, the person who asked the question says, makes sense, thank you.
You're welcome.
Real quick, Jean, can you stop sharing and I'm gonna share my screen real quick? Thank you.
We do have one more question coming from the group. It says, do you build in cultural behaviors or values of collaboration into the charter?
So, all right, so collaboration is a leadership competency along with change management. So I mean, I'm going to talk about the enterprise level and then I'll talk about the project level.
And
so at the enterprise level,
just FYI, we are getting close to the end of the hour, so I know this is super interesting, and Jean is a wealth of information. I'd love to hear the response to this question, and then we can wrap up for the day. Okay?
Gotcha. I'll make it short.
Okay.
So just at an enterprise level, you know, collaboration is a competency, a leadership competency that we expect all of our staff to have. So you know, and as far as enterprise change management, collaboration, what I call my partners, my partnering that I've done in my core team and all that alignment, that's how collaboration is built into enterprise change management. And now when you say a charter, I wasn't sure whether you're referring to like an individual change, but each change, yes, is a collaboration. Our change management practitioners can pull in someone from continuing education for support, from the leadership section, from Lean Six Sigma, from communications, to get all the support that they need in order to come up with a solution for, you know, our internal clients and their change.
Okay. All right, well, wonderful. I know there's more questions, but we do need to wrap up. We only have a few more minutes. And so we will track those questions. We will send them on to Jean, connect you guys, and that way we can get your questions answered. So we had alluded to the fact that we've had a very busy and challenging last few months earlier in the session, and so I have a big announcement. One of our board members had an addition to her family. So there is Evelyn, and she is so cute, and so Claire had a baby. So that's one big thing that we had going on over the last few months. And you know, that and just a lot of changes I know in my organization have been happening. And so we've had a flux of resources. And so I apologize up front by saying, I know that I had sent out an email to our group saying that we would start our bi-monthly newsletter in October. Well, that didn't happen. So we are aiming for December, and as we build in some more resources into our team, and if that doesn't happen, we will definitely get there by February. So we're building back up our team of people that can help work on things for PSCP. Anyway, so we will get those newsletters started as soon as we can. And we'd also like to reach out to everyone and say, hey, do you want to present in 2020? If so, please respond to the survey or shoot one of us an email. We'd really, really love to have you present sometime this next year. And again, if you haven't been to the website lately, please go. There's been a lot added to the resource page. So, and if you have tools, resources, articles that you've written, anything like that that you'd like to share with the community, shoot them over. We will get them on the website. But make sure to go to that website every once in a while and check out the new stuff, because we're continually adding things to the resource area. Like this webinar will get added to the presentations area, the webinar area, where you can go back and use this for other things. And I know Jean's, thank you so much, Jean, by the way. Your presentation was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was great. I liked it the first time when we did our dry run, and I liked it even better this time. So.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. When there's so much information like that, it is good to see it twice. So I'll be sending, sometime before the end of the day today, I will be sending an email to everybody with a feedback survey, links to the website, links to the slide deck and the recording. And so, so if you want to revisit that to continue to absorb all this great information, it's all going to be there. So thank you everybody that's in attendance today. I do just want to point out the slide you're looking at right now does not have accurate contact information, except for the, oh, well, I guess it does, yes.
I was like, yes, it does. I know.
Yeah,
I caught it this morning.
You're right. We used to have individual practitioner emails, but we don't. So it's all just goes to info@, and then we do have some individual contact information at other websites or other hosts. So thank you. Great. Thanks, everybody. Michelle, do you have anything else for us today?
No, just keep up the great work in helping people succeed with change, build the competencies within your organizations, and have a great holiday season, and we will see you in 2020.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.